Vegas Tales, baby. Okay, so we've interviewed all of the candidates but one, and that is Sara Goodley. So, Sara Goodley, tell me and of course the viewers about yourself.
I'm Alice Goodley.
I'm Walter, and this is Sara.
It's so nice to meet you.
This
We're
is
from
creepy.
Utah.
That explains it. No, I apologise to anyone from Utah, but it's really creepy. It's almost like we're getting brought into a convent. Join our society. Come in. Be one of us. Utah.
We are very lucky to live there. Our neighborhood is just dandy. But then again, I
Me too,
guess
dandy.
everybody says that about their hometowns.
We have friendly neighbors, a brand new school, and the best darn volunteer fire department you could ask for.
Well, it's not perfect, though. Crime has been on the rise lately.
Oh, that's
Oh,
true.
man.
Last Halloween, 2 houses got toilet papered.
I can't
breakfast
believe it.
pitched in, and we got those houses cleaned up by noon. Still, it was kind of disappointing to know that something like that could happen only a few blocks away.
Cleaning up all that toilet paper was really fun, though.
That's our Sara, always looking on the bright side of any situation.
Sara, you're into some really weird habits, but sure. Volunteer fire department?
Being on the volunteer fire department is considered a huge honor in our town.
There are
Oh,
too
yes.
many volunteers every year, and they can only let in so many people, so it's very competitive.
Well,
Mm.
the exception is on Thanksgiving. During the parade, they make everyone in town an honorary member. It's a nice gesture, and everyone gets very excited about it.
We go all out for Thanksgiving.
We go all out for all holidays in general. You should visit on Independence Day. We have a top-notch fireworks show every year.
Oh, and don't forget about the Easter egg hunt. That's my favorite.
Before we get on to the Easter egg hunt, the Bellflower Hotel. What does it mean to you?
We love this hotel. We come here every year on vacation.
We take a lot of family vacations together. The only thing better than seeing the world is seeing the world together.
This is my favorite vacation we take. I love coming here to Vegas.
That is true. It's all she talks about for months leading up to the trip.
I do get pretty excited about our vacation time.
Vegas, baby! But why?
A few years ago, we heard that Las Vegas had undergone some changes and was very family friendly now. Once we heard that, we just had to come check it out.
And we were not disappointed. There's a lot more to do here than just gambling and attending wild rock concerts. There's an aquarium, a history museum, and gondola rides.
We even found a soup kitchen that lets us volunteer every time we come here.
We do participate in some of the wilder activities too. Last year, we toured the Pinball Hall of Fame. I figured we are in Vegas after all, we might as well get a little crazy while we're here.
Spicy. The Pinball Museum. Also, History Museum? Very much of a history. Very short. But then again, I am from a country which has quite a lot of history.
We all love doing charity work, but to be honest, Alice and I don't find nearly as much time as we should. Sara, on the other hand, always finds the time.
She volunteers every week at an assisted living facility, a food bank, and an animal shelter. I wish I had her youthful energy.
Thank you. They're just being modest. They both do plenty.
When I was younger, I did what I could. Now all I really do is make the occasional donation.
What about when we went to the beach last summer?
That's true. We spent the day cleaning the beach, and we had a contest among ourselves to see who could collect the most trash bags worth of litter.
Daddy won by a full bag.
It doesn't matter who fills the most bags. What matters is doing our part for the environment.
Every piece of litter you pick up off the beach is one less piece that'll make it into the ocean. That's what Daddy always says.
But you're putting it in a plastic bag. And where do you think that plastic bag full of this litter is then going to go? Think about that. Think about that bit. Anyway, I appreciate the attempt.
We've never been to a rock concert. We really should go sometime, though.
Walter wasn't the biggest fan of rock music for the longest time, but it was Sara that convinced him to give it a try.
All the rock music I heard growing up just seemed so edgy, I figured it wasn't for me.
Daddy just hadn't listened to the right bands.
That's true, because I wasn't the biggest fan of rock music either, when all I ever heard were wild groups like the
Not the
Beatles and Billy
Beatles.
Joel. If Sara hadn't shown me that there were less rowdy bands out there, I'd probably still be missing out.
It is amazing how much Sara's changed our lives.
Just a yellow submarine. It's too wild. Too wild! Why would you ever make a submarine yellow? Craziness. Gambling.
None of us gamble, but I don't understand why it has such a bad reputation.
I've never gambled before, but I do want to try it when I turn 21 next year.
I've tried it. Gambling isn't really for me, but it seems like an innocent enough pastime.
If done responsibly, yes. I just feel like the majority of people just can't do it responsibly. Gotta have self-restraint, understand how much you can spend, and just think of it less of a money-making exercise, more as spending for that excitement, that little bit of a buzz it might create when watching someone.
Sara used to only volunteer there once a month. She wanted to work more, but they didn't need the help.
True, but when Sara wants something, she finds a way to make it happen.
While working there, I learned that a lot of the local homeless people were illiterate.
She talked them into letting her use their facility to hold a literacy class once a week.
It's every Friday night from 6 to 9. There wasn't a lot of attendance at first, but it's a pretty full class now, and I've made some good friends there too.
It's the one night a week that I let Sara stay out until 9:30 now. I don't want her coming home that late, but she's really making a difference in people's lives.
Wow. Out till 9:30?
I take 2 weeks vacation from my dental practice each year so we can go on a family trip.
It's safe to say our Las Vegas trips are our favorite. This is our 3rd year in a row coming here.
Next year, I'll be old enough to go to the casino floor.
Sara won't be 21 until next month.
Why didn't you just leave the trip like an extra month or so? You know? Anyway, Easter egg hunt.
You'd think the hunt was just about the kids, but it's just as much fun for us grown-ups too. The night before the hunt, all the adults get together and spend a few hours hiding the eggs. The next day, all the kids spend a few hours looking for them. It's like the adults get to play too.
Sara takes hiding Easter eggs very seriously. Some of the places she finds to hide them are downright diabolical.
Well, I remember what it was like hunting for eggs as a kid. The best feeling was when you'd find an egg in a hard-to-find spot. If someone doesn't hide them in places like that, then the kids won't get a chance to feel like that.
Exactly.
Sara
Don't
never
make it
does
easy.
anything without giving it her best effort. You should hear her music lessons.
Are we gonna get one? Come on, give us a music lesson.
Sara's learning to play the piano.
I'm not that good, but I'm trying really hard to get better.
Well, at the rate she's
Yeah, that's what
improving, though, she
learning
might
is.
be a famous musician by this time next year.
She's exaggerating. I wouldn't want to be famous anyway. Piano for me is just like a hobby, like you're knitting or daddy's gardening.
Knitting.
I do crocheting and knitting. I make clothes and blankets that I donate to local homeless shelters.
I'm guessing she
We
really
used to
top.
just donate money, but there are just too many people in need. There's never enough money to go around, and winters get very cold in Utah.
And since we're able to buy fabric in bulk, we're able to donate 5 or 6 times as many supplies as we could otherwise.
The hats she makes are really nice too. They're so much more comfortable than anything you can buy at a store.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I like to make sure my family's eating at least some natural organic food.
Everything is so processed these days, and you can really taste the difference when you eat fresh vegetables straight from the garden.
Daddy works
Yeah,
really hard
don't
on his
take
garden.
I don't consider it work. I enjoy it. Plus, it gives me a chance to spend time outside.
Adults are weird. They can do anything they want, but if they want to, I don't know, play in the yard, they won't do it unless they find an excuse.
I love Sara's outlook on life.
I'm kind of curious to what she defines herself as. You're 20, and you don't call yourself an adult. I wouldn't say you're a kid. But
When
you don't
people
wanna be
get famous, they move to a big city so they can make lots of money. Once they've made all that money, they move to the place they really want to live. I already live in the best place I can imagine, so why would I leave in the first place?
Because the best place you can currently imagine might not be the best place you could ever imagine. Think of it this way. Go right now, have a look at a country which you've never really thought about living in but you think might be nice. You might just find that's actually better than your current dream place to live. Just saying.
My father and grandfather were both dentists. All the men in my family were. Well,
Oh.
except for my brother Stephen. It's a family tradition.
Stephen is quite the rebel. He lives by his own rules.
He's a pediatrician in Salt Lake City. That's clear across the state from us.
He only comes to visit a few times a year, usually on holidays.
We do drive up to Salt Lake City once in a while. My friend Linda lives there too, so we get to visit her and Stephen in one trip.
2 for 1. So, Salt Lake City.
Our trips to Salt Lake City are one of the few things we have trouble agreeing on. There's just so much to do, and everybody wants to do something different.
I like to go to the zoo, Sara likes the planetarium, and Walter likes the Natural History Museum.
We started playing a board game right before our trip. The winner gets to pick where we go.
Sara usually wins, but she's very gracious when she does. Last time she won, she picked the zoo to make Alice happy.
I won twice in a row. I would have felt selfish if I picked the planetarium both times. Plus, we hadn't gone to the zoo in forever. It wouldn't have been fair.
Isn't she just the best? Linda was my best friend back in high school. She was a bit of a troublemaker back then. To be honest, I was a bit of a rascal myself.
It's true. Alice and Linda were big mischief makers. Now, it may seem hard to believe now, but Alice was quite the prankster in her teenage
What
years.
did she do?
How come I've never heard about this before?
Well, I am not very proud of some of the things I did, so I don't talk about them much.
Can you tell me about one of them? Please.
Please, please.
Okay. Every April Fool's Day, Linda and I would send someone a pizza they didn't order as a prank. We paid cash, so it couldn't be traced back to us. And we'd also tip the driver so they wouldn't get stiffed in the gratuity.
I hope none of those people were trying to lose weight. That could knock someone off their diet.
We were young and reckless. We didn't think about the consequences back then.
I understand. I certainly got into my fair share of trouble when I was younger.
Oh, really? And those are?
I've caused as much trouble as anyone. I was once suspended from school for smoking. Another time I got detention for a whole week for cutting class. I'm no angel.
Before we get on to the suspension.
One thing you should never do is stiff a service worker. Tips are most of their income.
I'm ashamed to admit I am guilty of that myself. There was a time where I didn't know you were supposed to tip housekeepers when you stayed at a hotel. I'd been traveling for years before I realized it. I have no idea how many housekeepers I stiffed without realizing it.
A lot of people aren't sure when they're supposed to tip and when they aren't. It's a big problem.
Well, I don't use a smartphone myself, but I hear one of the big problems these days is people don't know they're supposed to tip app workers.
I thought everyone knew that one.
You tip when you're in the US. That's the main rule. Right. Don't use smartphones? No, I want to know about the suspended.
I was walking to my next class when a kid I didn't know dropped a pack of cigarettes. I instinctively picked them up for him, but just as I did, a teacher happened to see me holding them and sent me to the principal's office. I couldn't say they weren't mine without telling on the other kids, so I got suspended.
It worked out for the best. The kid eventually felt bad that Sara was taking the blame for him and told the principal what really happened. Then he later became Sara's first boyfriend.
Ooh. Sarah's first boyfriend, eh?
It's not what it sounds like. A couple of girls at school were playing a prank on this kid, Tommy. He was really unpopular. They pretended he had a secret admirer and started passing him all these fake notes. They were just building up his hopes to crush them. Eventually, so many kids got in on the prank that nobody even knew where it started. I didn't want to see him get hurt, so I pretended I was the admirer and we dated for 2 months. He turned out to be a nice guy, but I was only 17 at the time and nowhere near ready for a boyfriend yet.
Too much responsibility for it. Don't use smartphones, eh?
We're a flip phone family.
I love flip phones. They're inexpensive, the battery lasts a full week, and they don't break when you drop them.
True.
I like knowing Sara has plenty of charge on her phone in case she needs a ride.
Well, you know, if I had a smartphone, I wouldn't have to bother you or Daddy when I need a ride. I could just use an app.
She's talking about those rideshare services. I just don't understand those. I mean, when I was growing up, we were taught never to talk to strangers on the internet and not to get into a car with a stranger. But now there's an app that literally lets you summon a stranger on the internet so you can get in their car. I don't understand why they're so popular.
I'm sure there's plenty of useful apps on those things, but everybody that I know that has a smartphone, they just text each other. I prefer having to
Really?
call someone. It's more of a social interaction for me.